Okay, it is time. It's 9 o'clock my time. Thank you so much for joining me for today's burst of innovation. Today is all about a tactic. In fact, a tactic for brainstorming with your team and your colleagues virtually. As we all know, we will be doing this type of brainstorming for a while. And, I get a lot of questions from people around, well, what do I do if we're on a, whatever technology you use? What do I do if I'm on a Zoom call? How do I get the richness that I normally get out of a live brainstorm in a brainstorm in this situation when we're virtually? And how do I keep people engaged? And how do I make sure that I'm tapping their thoughts and their ideas, and it's not just getting lost in the shuffle because we're all coming from different places? And the thing I'd like to add to this too is, this isn't we're in a bit of an extreme virtual situation, but the reality is a lot of us work in organizations where our teams are spread across the globe. I've done a lot of work with companies like Procter & Gamble and General Mills, and we spent a lot of time on virtual calls and virtual brainstorm sessions because, frankly, it's not cost effective to fly everybody in every time we need to meet. The beauty of virtual, I'd say, is that in some ways we can tap more people, more perspectives, more ideas more often. So what I want to do today is give you one simple method for brainstorming virtually that helps your team be engaged in that brainstorm and get the best, most innovative ideas and thinking out of them. And it's so simple. And what I love about it is that it really taps the way our brains work as humans. In fact, I'm going to go into this in a little more depth, but it's visual strategy. So it taps the visual part of our brains that we all have. We all respond and understand graphics and visuals. Interestingly enough, while words are our main mode of communication, we actually misunderstand each other more with words than we do with visuals. So I'm going to do a couple things. I'm going to show you a video that I took of a very quick brainstorm that I was doing with the team. They allowed me to share some of it. I cut out the audio since I can't cover that stuff with you because it's confidential, but I just wanted to show you a snippet of it. Then I'm going to show you kind of the black diamond level of that. With strategic visualization and strategy. And then I want to show you a resource to help you implement it. So here's how it works. In fact, let me share my screen. And while I'm sharing my screen and getting my tech going, let me just say that, hey, I hope you're joining me next Friday for the Global Book Party Extravaganza of the Year online. The link is in the chat bar, but please come join me. I would be so disappointed if those of you who I see every week and the new people don't join me next Friday for that book launch, because there's a lot that's going to happen in that. Okay, let me share my screen and talk about this strategy or this tool. Okay, so as I said, one of the things that helps on a virtual brainstorm, an exercise that works phenomenally well, is actually to use visual brainstorming. And what I mean by that is having a whiteboard or a screen, a place where we can actually draw, type in, visually put our ideas on the screen. Here's what we did. I'm going to talk through this as we go through this, as I show you this video. Here's what I did with this team. So they were a manufacturing company, and we wanted to figure out different ways to serve their customers given their needs have changed. So the facilitator started by putting the question on the board. And the important part about that is now we're visually all looking at the same problem, the same challenge we're trying to solve together. We're in alignment. I think all too often on brainstorm sessions, particularly virtually, you say it and then it's like it goes in one ear and out the other, and not because people aren't paying attention, but because you've only said it once, and then we go right into solution mode. So I like to have the challenge that we're trying to solve visually articulated on the screen right away. So now you can see what's happening here is, and actually let me back up and say, this is how this exercise works. Then what the facilitator does is says, hey, let's all partake in this brainstorm. So we're gonna pass the controls around from person to person to add their thoughts to the board. So the cool part is what you're seeing here in this video is different people adding to the board. And here's something that happened that's super interesting, why visual is so much stronger than just verbal and even just writing notes and taking, raw notes of the meeting. So this person writes in this thing about package our services differently, okay? The way that person put it in a box, as you're gonna see, sparked the next idea. It wasn't just the words, it was just the simple visual of the box. That led to what this person's gonna write. So when you think about brainstorming with your team virtually, I want you to think about how you can leverage visual tools. Now, I'm showing you this one specifically because it's kind of clunky, right? It's a little bit of an experiment, and that's okay. This is not about having the perfect tools or even it being beautiful. It's about tapping the visual centers of our brain and making sure that everybody's engaged. So now you see that this person wrote all-in-one box option. And they had said, oh, because you used a box, not a circle, it got me thinking, what if we had a DIY option? And that was kind of this all-in-one box, right? And then somebody else added a heart to it to say, yes, I really like that idea. There's little stamps in Zoom that you can use. So again, when you visually put things in front of people, they are more able to understand it. You're more in alignment, and it opens up more innovation in your brain because you can actually visually take in that information. So I want you to think about, in your next meeting, how can you share the controls? How can you get everybody looking at the same thing? And by the way, if you have a way that you've used this really successfully, please put it in the chat bar, because as I said, I specifically showed this one because it's actually a little bit clunky. And if you're the leader of this meeting, I would simply set it up by saying, hey, this isn't going to be pretty. And that's okay. That's not what we're here to do today. What we're here to do is to figure out new ideas and new solutions, more innovative approach to the work that we are facing. So you notice now, right, as this goes on the other side, someone's talking about market research, which led another person to write survey with prizes or hosting a virtual lunch, which prompted another person to take it a step further and say, send them Grubhub so they can eat with us over lunch, right? Instead of just scheduling it over lunch, actually send them food so that we can all eat together. I thought that was absolutely brilliant. The team did too. That's why I got a couple hearts. You can innovate, you can analyze, but there's something so powerful about visual that brings us all together in a way that we just don't get by just using words and not having the kind of visual in front of us. Now, like I said, this is a very clunky way to do it. And I'm really thankful that my client allowed us to show this, because while it's clunky, I hope you can see the innovative ideas that came out of this were super powerful. And in fact, towards the end of this meeting, we actually had a whole conversation about which one of these they were going to move forward with. They've actually got 2 action items big action items based on this clunky visual map. So my question to you right now, before I move to the black diamond level, is can you see this? Can you envision using this in your organization? How do you envision using this in your organization? It works with any problem, any challenge, any opportunity. It can be big, it can be small. Here's the other, by the way, side effect of this that I think is really important. If I'm on the meeting and I know that I, at some point, am going to have to add my thoughts to this board, you better believe I'm paying attention. Oftentimes in these brainstorms, I think you've seen it particularly virtually, what happens is 3 people speak up and everybody else is quiet unless you call on them, and then they're somehow on mute, and it takes them a while to get on. In this method, you're telling your team ahead of time, hey, we're all participating in this. Everybody's going to add something to the board. And hey, I will give you the tools ahead of time so you know how to use it. But when you know that it's coming around to you, you better believe that people are going to pay attention. And that's a really good thing. That ups your engagement in a way that you don't normally get on these virtual sessions. The cool part that would happen with this one is as we kept going, then people were raising their hands to jump in. It wasn't about taking turns. People were just jumping in, because now, as you can see, they're looking at all these ideas and they're getting even more ideas and more innovation is popping. So now they're like, oh my gosh, wait, I got something, I got something, I got something. We filled this board all the way. It was absolutely incredible. So that's the power of visual brainstorming. That's the exercise that I highly recommend that you use with your teams. It opens up the innovation in the brain with visual, and it keeps people engaged. I just want to show 2, I'm going to share something else with you really quickly, because I just want to share 2 other things with you. Let me get to Google Chrome. That's what I want. Okay. If you've ever used a visual strategic facilitator, they're incredible, right? Like this is a video I just pulled up, but you can see, right, they do amazing work. But here's something else I discovered, because here's the pushback you sometimes get with, we're going to have a visual brainstorm. And in fact, if you could draw your ideas because you have like a drawing tool, amazing. They're like, I can't draw tomorrow. That's not my thing. I found this incredible video that's a how-to of how to draw very simple things, like how to turn a star into a person, like the fundamentals of what you need to be a visual thinker and a visual communicator. I love this type of stuff. I have great colleagues who do visual facilitation. It's phenomenal. But part of what she does is teaching you as a person on it how to visually engage. So I'm going to put this link in the chat bar if you want it, because it puts your people a little bit at ease if you get the pushback of, but I don't know how to draw. That's not my thing. So I will put that in the chat bar in a second. But before I do that, I'm going to stop sharing and come back to me and say, to close out, I just want you to think about, let me put my chat bar because someone's chatting and I can't see it. Okay. Before I close out, I want you to think about how to visually engage your team, how to have them all looking at the same thing, how to engage them. So simple. We just talked about the tool, right? You get a whiteboard, you have each of them take control, you have them at it. If you take it to the black diamond level, you even have them with some like freestyle, do a little bit of drawing. The combination is so powerful. We do this in all of our V sessions where we use innovation to solve real world challenges with virtual teams, right? When we're actually working through stuff. This is part of our toolkit that I'm kind of pulling back the curtain and sharing with you because I know it works. It feels uncomfortable at the beginning a little bit, feels a little bit awkward. That's all about the expectation and the setup and making sure that, hey, clunky is okay. We're here for the ideas. But I promise you, it's so powerful. Okay, I can't believe it. Our time is already up. It already goes so fast. Let me put this in the show notes so that you can have that done. Let me paste that in here. And hey, don't forget to come to the book launch party. The link is there too. Sarah says, love this, thinking of doing WebEx with customers and having lunch sent to their homes, right? Or mail them home snacks. Mail them home snacks. Sarah, that's genius. Thank you for sharing that, right? So, and Sarah, I'm glad you kind of caught to that, but notice, I bet you, I could be wrong, but I bet you that had I just said that in passing, you wouldn't have caught on to it the way looking at it on the screen did. That shows you, Sarah, right now, your response, that power of that visual brainstorming with your virtual team. Because when you get to see it and, excuse me, also talk about it, it takes it to a whole new level. All right, everyone. Thank you so much. I hope you all have a wonderful weekend. I will see you all Monday.